In the beginning of Bruce's career, sort of like the higher ups didn't really get it. Bob thought Bruce was ripping him off.
It's John Bowden from Rocky Street Music. Paul Rappaport. You know, I like talking to people who are part of the insides of the music industry. They're not the guys who get their names on the front of the album, of course, but they're usually mentioned inside the liner notes because they're an important part of the machine. They also know things and say things sometimes that the artists would not. Now, there's no secret that Bob Dylan in the beginning didn't warm up to Bruce Springsteen's sound. Kind of thought he was being, as Paul Rappaport just said, being ripped off. But this clip, which is a long one, tells a story of a concert, a radio station concert, Backstage, the Roxy, Bruce Springsteen being presented, and let's just say a few things going wrong, and it's one of those you'll never work in this town again kind of stories. Paul Rappaport, Bruce Springsteen, and a lot of people around in that machine, including some more on Bob Dylan and Bruce, on Rocky Street Music. Paul Rappaport was a veteran CBS Records executive whose career in the music industry spanned decades, bridging the worlds of artistry and commerce. As the senior VP of CBS Records and working closely as an A&R rep, Rappaport worked very closely with some of music's most iconic names. And in the golden era of vinyl, known for his keen ear and behind-the-scenes savvy, Rappaport just wrote about his escapades in a new memoir titled Gliders Over Hollywood. The book offers an insider's look at the record biz, filled with pretty cool anecdotes, quirky encounters, and the kind of wisdom only a seasoned music man can deliver. Whether working the phones to push a single or navigating the egos of rising stars, Paul Rappaport was one of the industry's unsung heroes, a passionate record man with a lot of stories to tell, and now he's finally letting you know all about them. Rappaport played a pivotal role during Bob Dylan's later years. He worked closely with Bruce Springsteen. He worked with Pink Floyd and Roger Waters, juggling the new solo artists and the classic band led by David Gilmour. The book tells about his tours with the Rolling Stones. It talks about promoting Billy Joel at a pivotal point in his career. He was part of the grunge era with Alice in Chains. In the book, there are memorable moments with Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden, and he worked closely with Journey. Rappaport's memoirs, Gliders Over Hollywood, offers an in-depth, sometimes very funny, always entertaining look at the world of rock promotion. When you talk about Bruce and you talk about that famous radio recording,
Oh, yeah.
I found Darkness to me at the Edge of Town was sort of like, listen, if you thought that was a flash in the pan, even though that was his third album before, if you had any doubts when Darkness came out, I remember going, I just talked to Charlie Colella, who worked, on Jungle Land, and he came up to Bruce and he says, "What do you want for this?" And Bruce, being the cerebral guy that he is,
He's pretty cerebral.
well, he was going, well, I kind of want, and he just kind of went, and I said, "Charlie, what did he tell you?" He says, "Really didn't tell me anything. He just let me do it. Tell me about that concert, 1978.
The first thing to say is, in the beginning of Bruce's career, sort of like the higher ups didn't really get it. So those of us that were in promotion and marketing, there were a few of us that were big Bruce fans because we'd seen him live. So many records coming out at once. Because so here's another guy. It's like Bruce Springsteen. Nobody knows what a Bruce Springsteen is. I mean, all these records are the next level, like Billy Joel, Bruce, Loggins, and Messina. These are the next Blue Oyster Cult. These are the next artists. Okay, I get Greetings from Asbury Park. I listen to it. I go, whoa, this guy's something, right? Listen to this guy's lyrics, and I can tell that Bob Dylan's an influence, and fine, right?
Which Bob told you.
Yeah, he didn't like that at all. Bob didn't. Bob thought Bruce was ripping him off. Right? Bob did not like Bruce Springsteen. Another funny part in the book. Like, Bob walks into my office and he knows I work with Bruce a lot. It's a giant poster of Bruce, right? Fondest memories of being in the business is I actually had a great relationship with Bob Dylan, which for me is a real big deal because as a kid growing up, he had meant so much to me. He walks in my office, he looks at me and he goes, "Is that guy still driving that stolen car?" Only Bob Dylan can come up with a line like that, right? "Is that guy still driving that stolen car?" I'm like, "Bob, come on. There's nobody Guthrie, there's no Bob Dylan. There's no Bob Dylan, there's no Bruce Springsteen. Come on, it's an influence. He's not copying you, But the worst thing was, of course, when Bruce came out, it was like, oh, the new Bob Dylan or the next Bob Dylan. Well, as far as Bob's concerned, there only needs to be one Bob Dylan. So, but at any rate, so there's a few of us who really were pushing from the ground up for Bruce. You couldn't help but get it. All you do is see the guy in concert. The guy came and played the Troubadour. I mean, we were like, oh my God. You know, you saw it. Columbia Records, it's a big record label. It's mostly making their money. You have to remember this. Top 40 singles, right? FM radio starts to happen in the early 70s and the mid 70s. By the time the mid 70s comes, now we're selling records on rock radio. We don't need top 40 just to sell, but that's not the way it is in the beginning. So the guys that run the label, they're old school. What are they're Barbra Streisand, they're Neil Diamond, those are the big pop artists, Paul Simon, those are the big pop artists of the day. So the rock stuff, people like me, our job is to get it going at rock radio and then cross it over to top 40. Whether it's Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, Journey, it all starts at rock radio, which is where I sort of, perfected my, what I was doing and as a promotion person. And then you would cross over to top 40. So, Darkness, I mean, 1978, at this point, Bruce is selling at least 1 million records without a top 40. He hasn't had a top 40 hit. But Born to Run sold 1 million. So that was like a breakthrough, but dig it. He was even talked about as the guy that had the biggest cult audience. How's that? Bruce Springsteen has the biggest cult audience because his fans, we just sold 1 million records with Born to Run. But he's still not thought of as a superstar. He is if you go see him play an arena, but he's still not, he hasn't had a hit single yet. Think about that. So if you're a Bruce Springsteen fan, yeah, you're going bananas because you know what it is. But there's a whole lot of people that don't know what a Bruce Springsteen is until you have a hit single, because you sell 1 million records. When you have a hit single, you sell 4 million records. Yeah. When you have a hit single, now all of a sudden the little teeny bop girls are talking to you about Bruce Springsteen. And it kind of makes you upset because, Bruce is like this heavy lyric guy, and all of a sudden these little teeny bop girls are telling me they love Bruce Springsteen. So back then, we're still trying to get him to a certain level. So live broadcasts for us were the way to do it, because no matter what Bruce Springsteen, even Born to Run, you can listen to the album. There's nothing like seeing this guy live. Yeah. It just isn't. He's one of the most amazing live performers ever. He works at it to be that. He's the hardest working guy I've ever met in my life. Right? This doesn't happen by accident. It's just, One of my favorite stories is he comes off the stage after he does like 4 encores. He comes off the stage, standing next to the head of sales. He peeks up behind the curtain. The head of sales is going, "Bruce, what are you doing?" Bruce is seeing if there's anybody left, applauding. He goes, "You just did 4 encores. You've done way more than anybody would expect of you." And Bruce turned around and looked at him and he goes, "Hey," guy's name was Tom Donnarumma. He goes, "Hey, Donnarumma, I'm in the business of the unexpected." Right? Yeah. Because he knows that if he comes out for a 5th encore, after the house lights are up and everybody's leaving, right? That's rock and roll history. Everybody's going to remember that for the rest of their lives. The house lights were up, the curtains were drawn, you could see the back wall. It wasn't even and he just came out and did one more song for us because of the fans and him. It's like this, right? He gets that. So believe it or not, even after Born to Run, Darkness is just the next record. We're still working to get Bruce Springsteen to be popular. So I get a call from John Landau, the manager, saying, "Hey, man, the Forum is like a quiet show. The tickets went on sale, they sold out, and it's a quiet show. No one knows we're in town except for the people that went to the Forum. We got to bust LA wide open. How do we do that?" He goes, "What about like a live broadcast?" Which he knew was helping Bruce. He goes, "Well, the local station was KMET in Los Angeles. Let's do that." I said, "Well, if you do that, that will really help," because KMET at the time was huge. Was the biggest rock station in town. It was the biggest station in town. It was bigger than the top 40 because rock music in 1978 was like this. And so the FM radio station was the amplifier for rock and roll in Los Angeles. I said, "Great. When do you want to do it?" He goes, "This Friday." I said, "Oh, really?" I was laughing. I said, "John, these live broadcasts, minimum 2 weeks to set up. I mean, minimum. I mean, you got to get a sound truck. Everybody's using it. Everybody's doing live broadcast. You got to get an engineer. You got to get, the radio stations got to get their stuff together. They got engineers. Like, you got to get the phone company. It wasn't satellites then. It was the phone company. You had to hook up two stereo lines from the phone company. Try to get a hold of the freaking phone company. Pacific Bell Telephone. It's a corporate entity that you don't call up and go, "Hey, I got Bruce Springsteen. I need two stereo lines on Friday." Lucky for me, I had done enough live broadcasts that I had a friend at the phone company who's a gal I knew, and I could call her and go, "Hey, look, you're not going to believe this. I need two stereo lines set up at the Roxy on Friday." She's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." So, but she was cool, and I think she probably even knew who Bruce was. But I had to get all that together in 3 days. 3 days. I couldn't even get a yes answer out of Bruce because he is so cerebral. He had to think about it for a while. He didn't even get a yes answer until like Tuesday night. So I've got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Friday is the show, right? And I'm like, "Hey, everybody get there early. We've never done this in 3 days, blah, 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 blah." And you read all this, I'm trying to take you through it in the book of how crazy this is. So it's hard enough to do a live broadcast in 3 days. And then the general manager showed up and I try to be kind in my book, but he was just really drunk and belligerent. He was the guy that was running the station at the time. He's the general manager. He shows up and he wants to be a big star. And he shows up and he's got all his Metro Media badges. Like, he looks like a general, like nobody's going to care, right? This is the live broadcast at the Roxy. Like, "Where's my backstage pass?" I'm like, "Well, I gave him all to all these people you sent that don't need to do anything. And and the rest are for the jocks who actually are trying to make this happen." Well, as you read, he goes upstairs and he decides everybody needs walkie-talkies. That's insane. It's a little hallway. It's the Roxy. We don't need this isn't like the Forum. We don't need walkie-talkies. He's out of it. He insists everybody have walkie-talkies, and it's getting comical. You got one, legendary disc jockey from one end of the hall talking to another on a walkie-talkie, and we're all rolling our eyes like, "Guys, we don't have any time. We have to get this done." Right? We've got to get sounds. We got to get, the amps got to get set up. We got to get sounds. We got to know what's going to sound like. And all this stuff is happening. And this guy is just barking orders. And as you read in the book, it's terrible. I mean, the woman who was supposed to be the host was Mary Turner. She's like a starlet in LA. She's like Lauren Bacall of rock in LA. They have a disagreement. So he tells her she's not the host anymore. She's crying. I've never seen her cry. She's a tough chick, right? She doesn't cry, right? So, and he's everywhere he goes, he's throwing hand grenades. I mean, this show almost didn't happen because it was so insane, right? And I do write in the book, in the beginning of the book, it got so crazy. I came out of the men's room trying to keep this thing together, and he's got me by my collar and my throat. And he starts banging my head against the upstairs wood paneling of the Roxy, right? And he's using my head as an accent, right, to every word, right? KMET, bang! Word is never gonna bang, ever do, bang! A broadcast, bang! With Columbia Records again, bang, bang, bang! Like, the guy slammed my head against the wall, right? You can't make this up. This is happening.
You should be dead.
I should be dead. I'm looking at him, and I'm like, "Oh, my head hurts." I'm like, "How the heck did I even get here?" It's like, I have to pull this together. Yeah. Right? I'm the guy, one of the guys, the music director, Jack Snyder's going, "Hey, we got a problem. We only have one lineup." You're 15 minutes before showtime. The phone guy's having trouble connecting the line. I'm like, "Well, what does that mean?" Does that mean we're only going to have one speaker? He goes, "No. You get anybody at home that get both speakers, it'll just sound mono. It won't be in stereo until we get the other lineup." I took a breath of fresh air. I was like, "Oh, that's okay. Listen to Bruce's records. They all sound like mono anyway. They're all smushed together. It's the big rock sound." But so I'm in the middle of. I've been up for 3 nights and 3 days because I'm aside all this stuff. I'm fending off people who want to go to the show. And the Roxy only holds like 400 people. So this can't be, "Hey, come and see Bruce Springsteen." All my friends in the music business, much less all the artists that want to come. I'm politely telling them that these tickets have to go to fans. They can't go to the industry. This is for fans. So I'm fending all that off while I'm trying to connect all this stuff. And So I think I gave one pair away to Linda Ronstadt. But it's Linda Ronstadt. Come on. I just say yes to Linda Ronstadt.
She was huge then,
So
78.
I was like,
Oh
come
my
on, man, it's
God.
Linda Ronstadt. Yes, I gave a pair to Linda Ronstadt. But everybody else, no, they couldn't go. So excuse me. So I have to like I've been up for 3 nights and 3 days. You read about it in the book. It's like I've just had my head smashed in on a wall. I have to walk in and tell Bruce we might be 15 minutes late. I have to look normal. I walk in, hey, he was the boss then. We called him boss. Hey, boss, do you care if you go on exactly at 8 o'clock? You don't care, do you? Nah, just tell me whenever you're ready. I'm going, okay, thanks. Shut the door, run out. I just buy you 15 minutes. Get the freaking lineup and get this together and sort out all who's going to host the show. And it almost didn't happen because of how this backstage mania that was happening. Bruce doesn't even know it. I just sent this, before the book was printed, I sent the stories to Landau, his manager. He's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what? This is great. Why didn't you tell me that?" I'm like, "Because there wasn't time, right? He doesn't even know." Bruce Springsteen, until he reads this book, doesn't even know what happened himself. When he reads this book, he's going to go nuts. Yeah. He doesn't know. Nobody knows. In fact, until this book came, nobody would know. I mean,
you had to take out of the recording? Was it that guy? When you went back to the recording, you had said you had to clean it up and take some stuff out.
No, what happened was the general manager had written a script. And it was not, it was just very cliched. You don't write scripts for live broadcasts. It's not, you don't, it's just not off the cuff. I mean, somebody's there going, hey, here's Bruce, and now he's doing this. And then you don't the whole thing runs seamless. You don't even break into the music. Maybe halfway through, you might say, hey, this is KMET, Los Angeles, listen to Bruce Springsteen. That's it. Because you want the music to run seamless. That's the way a live broadcast is supposed to go. This guy is old school Metro Media. He wants every song, he wants the jock in between every song to say, hey, you're listening to KMET. Hey, it's Bruce live at the Roxy. His whole introduction was complete terrible writing. It was like, he rocked them in New York. He rocked them in New Jersey. He rocked them at the Forum, and now he's going to rock you at the Roxy, right? Mary Turner, the reason she got in trouble, she goes, I'm not reading this on the air. She goes, the guy's a friend of mine. This has to be classy. I'm not doing this. And the general manager said, you're going to do this or it's going to be a different host, right? He didn't even understand what Mary and Bruce meant to each other. You're talking, they were bound together. I mean, she broke him in LA. He loved her. I mean, this was supposed to be this. Turned out to this. So now, if you listen, anybody who heard it live heard the host, Bob Coburn, with this horrible introduction and heard in between every song, hey, it's KMET, but it's like, all right. So first of all, the show went off, thank God. One of the best shows I've ever seen. It turns out that this Roxy show is thought of as Bruce's finest live broadcast. I'm not surprised just because it was one of those magic shows. So you go to Bruce Archives, they sell it. You can get the Roxy broadcast, which I highly recommend you get. You want to hear Bruce Springsteen in those days when he's telling stories and all this kind of stuff. It's an amazing show. It occurred to me at around 3 a.m. after it was all over. I was like, wait a minute. But what's the first thing the station is going to do? They're going to rebroadcast it. And I am going to make cassettes. And I'm going to give them to Bruce. I'm going to give them to John, his manager. In those days, you gave them out to people around town. The bootleggers were probably going to make a bootleg from one of my cassettes because they're going to get the better quality, right? And it occurs to me, whoa, it's going to have all this crap on it. It's going to sound terrible. Like, you want to hear music? You don't want to hear a disc jockey. And the general manager made him do it. I mean, this guy, Bob Coburn, legendary disc jockey, he would not have done this. He was not happy, but he didn't have the gravitas that Mary had, so he couldn't say no to the general manager. So engineer, Gus, who was there the night, and I said, hey, big favor, we got to edit this. Nobody can hear this show as it was because it's going to sound terrible, right? Because you're going to hear Bob yapping and it's going to sound all cheesy. I don't want Bruce to hear that. I don't want John to hear that. There's gonna be a bootleg of this. I don't want people to hear this. Now you got away with it because, in the moment, the whole city is listening to this broadcast. Mm-hmm. You walk out on Sunset Strip, during this show, and all these cars are, it's the cruising. Everybody's cruising. It's summer. Their windows are rolled down. Everybody's listening to this live broadcast. Kids are dancing in the street. It's like that. That's how big this event was. I said, but we need people to hear the show that you and I are about to produce, the way it should have been done, which is seamless music, like all live broadcasts. Like, yes, this is KMET, and yes, you can break in now and then and say, but all of this stuff that the general manager made Bob read, it's got to go. So Gus and I went back to the station. He wanted to go home. He said, "Rap, it's 4 in the morning by that time." He goes, "It's 4 in the morning. Let's go home, go to sleep, come back in the afternoon, we'll edit it." And I couldn't sleep. I was like, no, I can't. Until this is fixed, I can't sleep. Lucky, we'll go back to the white powder that we talked about in the beginning of the interview. He had some, which we needed to stay awake. And and we are editing this tape. If I told you how many pieces of tape we edited, I mean, the floor was covered in Bob Coburn. Hey, you're listening. Gone, 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 gone. And finally, we got to a place that was so bad. Bob said something that was terrible. It was like so cheesy, I couldn't live with it. But he said it over drum beat, over Max's drum beat. And I looked at Gus and I was like, God, I was so mad. He goes, "I can fix this." I go, "You can't fix it. That's over a drum beat."
Yeah.
I go, people can't know we edited this. It has to be seamless. People can't know you and I edited. This is a big secret, right? People hear this, they need to think this is what they heard. Okay, that's what we're doing here. You understand? Showbiz. So he goes, no, I can do it. And I watched him edit for the 2 hours, and he was amazing. The way he did it was he edited out 2 beats of Max's drums, but it's seamless, so you don't hear that. You just hear in time. That's genius. So that's one of the things, if you read this book, you will discover, if you've ever heard this broadcast, if you own a bootleg of this, it's not the original. It's something that I did because I wanted to protect the artist. In my job, sometimes not only are you promoting, things can happen to them, with them, for them, or maybe they do something dumb. Part of our job is like, hey, we need to distance ourselves from them. We need to keep you, like people should know you. And so that just came under protect the artist. I couldn't stand it. I didn't want anybody to know that. And so when you hear the broadcast, and even on the archive, you'll hear some of Bob Coburn, but you won't hear, you won't hear any of that. It's all gone.
I always want to say this, but thanks for supporting the channel. It means an awful lot to us. If you want to support us, there's a PayPal link at the very top of every single one of our videos. You can join our Patreon. We just put a whole bunch of stuff on there today. There's hundreds of clips on our Patreon right now for $6 and change you can have access to that have not gone on YouTube. And we have one of the best deals in Patreon history. It's crazy. Also, a swag store. You can buy a Rock History Music t-shirt or a cap. When you subscribe to our channel, make sure you click the bell notification. Don't miss any of our videos. Comment on our videos, like them, and share them on social media. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.